I want to take a minute to give Eddie Howe and Newcastle an amazing amount of credit for this year's gate crashing of the top four, let alone the top six. They have been arguably one of the best teams in the Premier League all season. I think a lot of people, when Eddie Howe was appointed manager in 2021, or excuse me, 2022, was no, actually, I believe he was 2021. Now that I think about it, gave him no credit. For the incredible job he did at Bournemouth. They were just like, oh, it's just another English manager. Getting, an undeserved appointment. But for me, that was an astute signing as well. He did an incredible job at Bournemouth when he was at Bournemouth, bringing them up through the divisions and allowing for the younger players to really develop themselves and be just confident in who they are and the capabilities that they have as players and as footballers. So for me, he's done an incredible job throughout his time in coaching, first off, at Bournemouth and now at Newcastle. So I think Eddie Howe's signing has been one of the better signings for Newcastle since they brought him in. Now, how have they get crashed the top six, top four, whatever you want to call it, because they're currently sitting in third with, I believe, 8 games left in their season. Well, there's been a lot of things. For me, Eddie Howe's appointment was one of them, he has created an amazing amount of camaraderie on that team. He has apparently great people management skills because he has reinvigorated Joelinton, especially in the midfield, who looked lackluster and just an ill fit for that team for a couple of years prior to Eddie Howe coming in and really just transforming him into a presence on the field. He's that in and of itself has been a huge improvement and somebody who I think deserves a lot of credit himself, Joelinton, for transforming himself and becoming that all-arounder in the midfield that I think John Joe Shelby at one point provided for Newcastle before he was sent off to Nottingham Forest this year. But what I want to go back through is from 2022, just the signings during that year, from the winter transfer window of 2022 to the summer before this season began. In the winter transfer window of 2022, Newcastle signed Kieran Trippier from Atletico Madrid, formerly of Tottenham Hotspur, and Bruno, whose last name I'm going to butcher, Guimarães. It's Portuguese. He's Brazilian, so that's a tough one for me to pronounce. That said, but Bruno and Kieran Trippier in the winter transfer window of 2022. 2 transformative signings for this squad. Trippier has been nothing short of sensational since he arrived. He has been incredible, truly. And I think has arguably been one of the best right backs in the league since he came back in January 2022. And then Bruno, on the other hand, I was a huge fan of him at Lyon. I think he's brought that versatility, but also that presence in the midfield, that disruptive force that so many defensive midfielders just embody. He's brought that, to Newcastle, and he, along with Joelinton in the midfield, I think has been a great axis, and they have, done incredibly well with him in the side. Another player that I absolutely have a lot of respect for is Bruno. So those 2 signings in the January transfer window of 2022 were transformative signings for Newcastle. But with the takeover by, Saudi Arabia, public investment fund, everybody expected them to be like, oh my God, we're going to spend, hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds and win the league and so on. And while they did spend quite a bit of money, 70 million euros on Alexander Isak in and of itself, they did spend a decent amount, and I think their net spend was over 100 million, 150 million, I believe, in the summer. That said, they were smart signings. They were signings that built upon the team that was already there and that Eddie Howe had already worked with and that he knew could fit into his tactical approach, could fit into his style, and fit into the team and basically build a squad strategically, which a lot of big clubs, I think, unfortunately don't do very well. I'm looking at Manchester United. I'm looking at Liverpool's current predicament, and I don't even want to begin to talk about Chelsea and whatever Todd Bowley is trying to do there. That said, over the summer this past year, they signed Alexander Isak, who has been it took him a little while to get going. Granted, he came in, he was injured, but he was a very smart signing from Real Sociedad. He had done excellently in Spain, Swedish international. He's young, he's hungry, he's got an eye for goal. That was a smart signing. And then they signed Sven Botman from Lille, who was, it was like 35 million pounds, I think, which was for a player of his capabilities and his capacity to bring the ball out from the back, especially. That was an incredibly smart signing on their part. He, along with Dan Burn, who a lot of people gave no credit to when Newcastle signed him, have been incredibly important to that back line of Newcastle, who currently have the tightest defense in the entire Premier League. But they brought him in. He's been excellent. They brought in Anthony Gordon from Everton for like 40 million pounds, winger from Everton, from the Toffees, who I think the transfer fee was absurd. Two, I think is talented. Sure. Is he worth 40 million pounds? Never. He recently had a public spat with Eddie Howe on the touchline after being coming on as a substitute and then being substituted in their recent game against, I believe, Nottingham Forest. Excuse me. And I don't see this one. So, I mean, granted, he's young. He is talented. He's brought in. He's trying to, I guess, learn the system. So, I mean, let's give him some time, But for me, this is the one signing that they had that I'm not necessarily a fan of, especially for the money spent. But again, let's give him some time and we'll see where he goes and what he can bring to the team. They also brought in Matt Targett from Aston Villa, I believe. Solid fullback, just a good player. Has been limited in his involvement this year, but I think when he has been involved, has been very good. So again, smart, astute signing. And then to me, arguably the best signing of the lot for this past summer was bringing in Nick Pope from Burnley, who had been relegated last year, although have recently gain promotion under Vincent Kompany's management back to the Premier League next year. But Nick Pope has been arguably one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League this season and was when he was with Burnley as well. To me, honestly, should be starting for England ahead of Jordan Pickford, but that's for another day and another time. That said, those 7 signings, and I'm going to go back from January of 2022 all the way through the summer, of Kieran Trippier, Bruno, Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon, Sven Botman, Matt Targett, and Nick Pope, was transformative to this Newcastle squad. And I think that is exactly why, under the tutelage, under the management of Eddie Howe, this side has gatecrashed the top 4 this season. And I believe they will actually be a force to be reckoned with again, for the next few years. When you talk about the traditional top 6, you look at Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Chelsea. And for me, Tottenham is in a period of transition again, trying to find a coach for next year after firing Antonio Conte. They've got Chelsea, who's kind of just in disarray across the board. Todd Bowley's ownership has been relatively shambolic for a variety of reasons. 600 million pounds spent to build a massive squad of overpaid players. Let's just be perfectly honest. And Liverpool, who are kind of also in a transition period as they've come to the end of their cycle and need some revamping. So for me, those 3 of the top 6 are, at they're able to be gotten to, I think, this coming season, and this year as well. I mean, Newcastle is currently 3rd, deservedly. So for me, I think Newcastle easily, if they continue on this trajectory, if they continue on this form, if they have the continued astute signings that they are have done over the past year, I think they very much can be in contention for Champions League, Europa League for the next handful of years or longer. I think they're a lot of people are like, oh, they're back. We're finally back. That's what the Toon Army is saying. But for me, I think you're getting a little ahead of yourselves, but I do think that that ability and that capacity for growth and gate crashing the traditional top six is very much there. And I think Eddie Howe is truly been an astute signing. He's been a great manager. Your transfer dealings have been excellent. And honestly, I'm excited to see where this goes with Newcastle because they are a fun team to watch. They're dogged, they're resilient, they've got good attacking prowess, they've got fun players to watch. I think that the Toon Army should be very happy with where their squad is this year, and they should be excited about what the possibilities are for this the coming season and the future ahead. So you can say all you want about the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, their backers, their owners, but that said, this squad, this team has been built for success in a very strategic and smart way. I think Eddie Howe has done an excellent job, and Newcastle, you should be proud of where you are this season, and I will be anxious to see how you compete next year, and if you can continue the form that you've had this year. I think you very much and very easily have an ability to play in the Champions League the following season. So best of luck. Newcastle, incredibly proud of the job that you've guys done. I mean, I'm not a Newcastle fan per se, but I'm proud of you guys. I mean, I honestly predicted you earlier this season before the season began to be kind of mid-table, but I sit here corrected. And again, mad respect for the work that you all have done, and what you put out on the pitch has been nothing short of phenomenal. So credit to you all. Cheers.